Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. Here we are at the end of season 4. It's been quite a long season. Good fun looking at sets that I really enjoy. Yeah, so this is just before we launch into the next season, which will be it's not the final season, but it's the last season where we look at these traditional intro decks. This is a video I like to do at the end of each season where we just kind of go over what we've looked at. I do a top and bottom 5 and just generally kind of talk about when the next videos are coming out and what to expect. So yeah, let's just get on with that. So this is the progress with the project so far. A lot of red now on this list, which feels great to see how much has been done. It's really actually a little bit a little bit concerning seeing how much time I've sunk into this. But I have had a lot of fun doing it. It has been really good to go back and look at all these decks and like just have some nice nostalgia. The thing is, though, going into the next season, well, I'll talk about it later. But going into the next season is going to be a little bit different. As I say, I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, let's do the top and bottom 5 what we had of this season. And it was actually kind of difficult to pick some of the bottom 5s just because like the sets we looked at in this season are some of my favorite ones. It's I've mentioned it a few times, but it's a period of time where I was playing Magic the most. I was going to a lot of pre-releases. I was just playing it more regularly, and I just really like all the sets for different reasons. So kind of hard to pick to pick a bottom 5 and also to pick a top 5 just because I liked so many of them. But I managed to do it. So before I go into it, let's just clear it. It's all opinion. These are decks I personally didn't like. If you liked them, you're not wrong for liking them. These are just ones that I wasn't that impressed by, or they just didn't do it for me, honestly. So yeah, not saying necessarily they're bad. They're just ones that I didn't like as much. So there we go. Let's let's get all that. We're all friends here. We're all chums. We all like different cards for different reasons. Let's go and look at the ones that I wasn't as impressed by in this season. As usual, these are in no particular order. This is just the order I reviewed them in. So I'm not saying like this is the least worst or the most worst. It's just one of them, or not even worse, just the bottom 5. I'm really tying myself in knots here, but like really don't want to like make anyone feel bad if they did like these decks, So the first one we're gonna look at is the Solitary Fiends one from Avacyn Restored. This was a weird theme to base the deck around, and it was kind of done badly, and I think just it was badly done in set, like the kind of the theme. So the whole theme was you had like a few creatures or a few cards even that just cared when you had like one creature out. So the foil face rare was the Lone Revenant, which is like if it's your only creature, you get this effect when it attacks. And then you had like a few black cards in there, which is like, if you only have one creature, then it gets these bonuses. It gets like Lifelink or Intimidate, whatever. Which is like, it's a weird strategy. And it just wasn't supported very well in set. And trying to make a deck out of it felt there just wasn't enough tools for it to like properly do what it wanted to do, and I think that is mostly because like of how the set was designed. I think really you could have had more copies of what like the loner cards in there, and also there should have just been more cards in the set that supported that as a strategy. So as a result, this one just fell. It's an interesting idea, but like I think it just was not great in execution, honestly. And then from Dragon's Maze, 2 from Dragon's Maze. I did not remember Dragon's Maze being as kind of disappointing as it was, but when I went back and looked at it, like because I really like Return to Ravnica as a set, and I have generally like good memories of it. Like everyone loves Ravnica. But yeah, when I was looking at Dragon's Maze, it was just they were just really disappointing. And there's you could say there's a lot wrong with Dragon's Maze as a set. It's a small set, so it's about 140 cards, I think that. And then 20 of those cards are Guildgate reprints and the Clue Stones, which is like that's immediately 20 cards out of a very limited card pool, and then out of what's remaining you're trying to like give equal representation to each guild, which is like which is an impressive thing to try and do, but Yeah, it just didn't work out too well, honestly. So yeah, these two, I thought the Rakdos one and the Orzhov one were really disappointing, honestly. Mostly because these were just worse versions of like the same decks in block. So like the this Rakdos deck, I can't remember if it's Rakdos Raid or Rakdos Revelry, but the Dragon's Maze one is just a worse version of the Rakdos deck that was in Return to Ravnica, and the same with the Orzhov one. It's just a worse version of the Orzhov deck that was in Gatecrash. I'm forgetting all the set names. Yeah, and Dragon's Maze, honestly, I really just think it should have had like triple colored decks. It should have had just 5 triple color decks. It could have been like an alliance between guilds, and it just would have made them stand out a bit more. And there's like fun inter guild synergies, right? You could have had like a Golgari Simic one with a bunch of +1/+1 counters. You could have had I know, like Boros and Selesnya like tokens and populating. Could have done something like that. Yeah, so these two are very disappointing. I say mostly because the card selection in them is not great, and they're just worse versions of earlier decks, honestly. So yeah, wasn't happy with either of these. And then moving on to Psychic Labyrinth from M14. So M14, I didn't really realize, I saw with Dragon's Maze until I started talking about it, but like how much I actually dislike M14 as a core set. I really do think it's like the weakest core set. At least modern core sets, like starting with say M10. It's definitely the weakest that I've looked at so far, I think, just in terms of like card selection and these decks that have been put together. Just really, really disappointing as a set, honestly. And I wasn't really happy with any of the decks from M14. I only picked Psychic Labyrinth just because part of that is my bias because I don't like blue white as a color combination. I think it's not great. And this deck just stuck out because like it just has the highest number of like just bad cards in there, like the Illusionary Armor and Stonehorn Chanter, and like it's just not a very good like white blue deck. It's like there's stuff in there that's trying to be white blue skies, but then there's not enough of it. Yeah, it just wasn't very good. So it really was, the worst out of a bad lot of decks anyway. Honestly, so yeah, just very very bland. Yeah, just not great. And then the last one was this. I forgot what it was called, Gifts of the Gods, from Born of the Gods, which again was another white blue deck, and this might be the worst deck I've looked at. I think I definitely feel that way, because this one I think did so much wrong. It's white blue, so it should be kind of soft control options and skies. Like it should be a fairly simple, straightforward deck, but the card selection again is like all over the place. It's full of vanilla creatures. It's got a bunch of like really half-hearted synergies. Like you've got one card in there which like cares about life gain, but you've got like 3 life gain cards, and it's just really bad. It was really 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 bad. I really didn't like this one at all. Yeah, just not much to say about it. It just wasn't great. Again, like Born of the Gods, I don't think actually that great a set. But thankfully that the third one, the Journey into Nyx, really picked things up. But yeah, this was really terrible. I think this goes, I think, with one of the Rise of the Eldrazi like level decks in terms of like overall out of the whole project. This is like right near the bottom out of like the 320 or so decks that I'm going to look at. This is going to be like bottom 10 essentially. Yeah, it was that bad. I really didn't like it at all. But obviously there were decks I did like, so let's talk about those ones. So the first one is the Grab for Power from Magic 2012. I really like this one because it has the very janky combo of the Empire artifacts, the Crown, Scepter, and Throne, and it just felt interesting to me because it's like it's a core set deck that's doing something other than just aggro or life gain. Like it's an actual kind of combo deck with like tutors and card draw to find specific pieces, and I just think that was great. Not saying the Empire artifacts are good. They're not. They are very janky, but like I think for a new player picking this up just to set that seed in them, just like yep, this is a game about like kind of combos and trying to find pieces, and yeah, that is a playstyle you can do. Yeah, I think it just deserves some praise for that. So yeah, really liked this one. Then from Innistrad, I've completely forgotten what this one's called. The green black morbid one. Why don't they put the names of the deck on the boxes? It's so annoying. But anyway, the green black morbid deck. Yeah, I just thought this was good. I just think green black morbid is a really solid strategy to work around. Innistrad obviously has a lot of cards that die or sacrifice or have death triggers. It's just really solid. Out of all the Innistrad block decks, this is my favorite. This is very solid. It was because there's one that I bought and I kind of made it my own. So it gets some kind of it's like some nepotism for that, I suppose. But yeah, I like this one. It's just solid. It's just really good. I think it's just very well put together, and I just think it just works out okay. Yeah, I like it. They're my absolute favorite, I think. So this is the Black White Exalted deck from M13. I love this one. I went off on such a such a like rambling love letter to this deck, and like Exalted as a mechanic. Exalted is like one of my favorite mechanics, and I loved seeing it in another color, in a color that hadn't had it before. Yeah, I just really liked this one, and it was really well put together. Really liked all the cards in it. Yeah, from what I remember, it's just very, very strong deck. I really like it. It set the seed in me to build a junk mono black Exalted deck, which I really love. I still play it occasionally. Have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, love this deck. Love this. And then from Gatecrash, the Simic deck, Simic Synthesis, I think it was, yeah. Again, like this is just really well put together. I like green blue anyway as a color combination. I think the evolve mechanic is super good and super interesting. It has a lot of ways of using +1/+1 counters for extra effects. Yeah, again, this was just really solid. I really liked it. It felt really well put together. I never had this deck, but I imagine it would have played like really well out of the box. So yeah, really liked looking at this one. And then the last one was Journey into Nyx, this the Black White Pantheon's Power, I want to say what it was called. Yeah, so the one that was all about Constellation. This one stood out because it is just creatures, enchantments, and lands. It's got no instants or sorceries. Which I mean, honestly, that's part of why why I picked it for this, because it stood out. It's interesting. But yeah, it's got a really great foil face red. Doomwake Giant is, I think, fantastic. It's got why am I? It's got a strategy and it like commits to it. It just really doubles down. Just like, right, we're doing Constellation, enchantments matter. Fill the deck with enchantments and enchantment creatures. And yeah, I think it just would have been really, really good out of the box. All the Journey into Nyx decks were kind of okay. I think this one was quite quite ahead of all the others, honestly. The other four was still okay. This one, like, to me, like really clearly stood out as being quite a bit better. So yeah, enjoyed that one as well. So that's yeah, it was 2 black white decks. Wow, there we go. Anyway, so let's talk about what's in season 5. So that's it. the rest of the list, everything in green. So that's Khan's block, and then we got the Battle for Zendikar block, Shadows over Innistrad block, and then also M15 and Magic Origins, which is basically M16, honestly. So yeah, Dragon Khans of Tarkir is going to be interesting because that's the last 3-set block before we go over to the two set model, when sets are starting to move over to only be like with Battle of Zendikar, you have Battle of Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch. So it means basically a lot fewer decks to look at. So it's only going to be 45, only 45 decks in the next season. And it's going to be interesting because I played a bit of Khans of Tarkir, and I sort of then, because this is kind of the period in time where I moved away, I moved to a different town, I kind of lost my regular play group, so I kind of dropped out of playing the game. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. So a lot of these cards, I'm sort of really seeing properly for the first time. Like I say, I know Khans of Tarkir a bit. I know Fate Reforged a bit because I was sort of still keeping up with it, and Dragons of Tarkir, I know that a bit. But like Battle of Zendikar, Shadows over Innistrad, and like Magic Origins stuff, I have like no idea about the cards. I have no experience with those cards at all, and that's the first time I can say that, because everything from like Tempest up to Journey into Nyx, I have experience like playing with in some way. But yeah, it's going to be uncharted waters going into the next few sets. So I'm probably going to make some very, very silly assumptions and analysis, I suppose, of the cards. But yeah, we'll see how that's gonna pan out. But yeah, and that's it. And then that's all the original theme intro decks done after that, which is going to be crazy. But yeah, Wow. So I'm going to say I'll be back in September. So I'm recording this sort of late July. So the first Theros deck reviews have just started to go up. So I'm recording this a lot later than I normally would. Normally I record these videos like right after I've finished everything else. Like I do it straight away, but I decided to let it kind of breathe a bit more first. Yeah, and like just see if my opinions on any of the decks had changed, and they hadn't. So I've done all the graphics for season 5, which means basically I've got the this week of July, and then basically all of August to record, which is great. And 45 decks is not that much to record, because I can do sort of 2-3 a day, honestly. So should easily be able to chew those out, and then after that. Well, we're going into Planeswalker decks then, and dual decks, and maybe a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, well, we'll see you in September. I really hope you've enjoyed season 4, and if you just joined the channel, if you've explored the backlog, I hope you've enjoyed all those videos and checking out reviews of old decks. But yeah, I'll be back in September. Thanks for watching, and yeah, have a great day.